Good evening, Sat Sri Akal, Namaskar, and good morning to all my participant guests from the West. On behalf of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, I welcome all participants to yet another powerful networking event. I have a wonderful guest speaker with me to make this evening wonderful and meaningful. But before that, let's have a quick look into what PCC is all about and what benefits does it offer to each one of us and what benefits we can offer to PCC. So a quick look about PCC. It's a chamber, it's a non-profit organization which comprises of professionals and businesses. It is 4 years old and with 17 chapters in 5 countries across 4 continents, it's growing and becoming stronger. There is no religion, no politics, and diversity in inclusion is the prime focus. We believe in capital building and capacity building of our participant members. Next slide, please. To join PCC, it's very easy. You just need to log into the website and just put in a couple of details and you will be able to join any chapter. Foundation of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce has raised nearly $1 million recently during the COVID times, and it has helped the government of Punjab. Of course, it has partnered with Rotary International for the same, where it could set up, 2 oxygen plants. The prime focus is on youth development, and for that we have Global Youth Squad, and it is going strong. Well, you see me on the screen, and I will be the moderator for the evening. Well, it's all there on the screen, but apart from that, I've been a stellar sportswoman. I've played cricket for India and hockey for my university and state, to say it all, and I'm running my own Winspire as an initiative. But for the evening today, I have a wonderful person whom I would be introducing slightly differently today. But before that, in case of any guests who are watching us, it will be a pleasure for us actually to invite you and become members where you can help the community build up and also benefit for yourselves. Now, coming to the agenda for the evening, it is communicate, talk, and meet. And to set the tone right for the evening, I have Aditya Arora with me, who has been an inspiring young leader. And of course, not to miss out, he was a nominee for Padmashree. That's a big, big thing amongst us and for all of us. We are highly privileged to have you amongst us, Aditya. But before I officially hand over the dais, I would quickly like to inform our guests and participating members that we shall have Aditya speak about his journey, adventure, and as an entrepreneur, his experiences. Followed by, I will be having an interactive session. So the platform will be open for any questions that the guests would like to answer. Ask Aditya, you can please type it in the chat box. And of course, thereafter, we shall be having the breakout rooms for your networking. These breakout rooms, I would be announcing it once the session is over. These will be divided into networking, entrepreneurs, leadership, and youth, if at all anybody would like to be part of those. So you can choose to meet up in those breakout rooms. This would be for a duration of 15 to 20 minutes. And thereafter, offline, you could take it on. So before we reach out to Aditya with my questions and guest questions, I would request Genia to play us a short video and which would highlight what Aditya has been doing so far.
I had a very difficult childhood. I was bullied as a kid because of my looks, bullied to such an extent that I hated going to school. All my free periods would be spent crying alone in the washroom. I couldn't wait for school to end. With college came a fresh start. While everyone else was focused on placements, I started interning with FAR, about which not a lot of people had heard back then. Every single person in my life opposed this decision, thinking I was stupid to do so. Everyone around me pulled me down. My self esteem and confidence hit a new low. Alone, I started doubting myself and my future, and a heartbreak at that time only fueled the fire. When things at home took a violent turn, the underprivileged kids I worked with became my only refuge for finding happiness and peace. They helped me realize that I did not need anyone's approval. I am who I am, and I will pursue the path that I am passionate about. What anyone thought about me did not matter anymore, and so my journey of self love and meditation began. From the kid who was at the verge of ending it all to the person I am today, the journey has been breathtakingly painful, but a beautiful one. But all rainbows do have that little shower before them. Little did I know what was waiting for me at the end of the downpour. I ended up winning the top 15 Microsoft Chainmakers Award under the age of 20 in the entire country for my social education campaign Education Yatra. And for that, I was among several Nobel laureates and social activists. Then came the Parliamentary Meritorious Award from the Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Maharji. In front of my parents, the same parents who doubted me, and now they were standing there awestruck and proud of myself. Fast forward today, I am one of the youngest people in India to be nominated for the prestigious Padmashree Award. Starting with the startup as an intern at the age of 19 and becoming its CEO by 21 was not an easy journey, but it has taught me a lot. Never give up on yourself. You do you. Believe in yourself when no one else does, because sometimes you're all you got and you are more than enough. Pat yourself on the back for every little thing you are good at. Love yourself and appreciate yourself. Taking the lesser traveled road might leave you alone. Something about the lesser known scares us. But if you gather that millisecond of courage and take the plunge, that's what makes all the difference.
It's such a pleasure, such short and sweet introduction, Aditya. Uh, before, it's so overwhelming actually when we see something like this and we hear your voice. My question to you is, Aditya, that what has been your journey as a FAR guy? Like, why the name FAR? Now after watching this video I can relate, but then I'm leaving this for you to say that why FAR and why do you call yourself a FAR guy?
So thank you so much, first of all, to the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce for having me, and a very good evening to everyone who's just joined in. Pleasure to be here. So yeah, when you looked at the video, I think most of that, of course, was spoken about in the video. A lot of things were spoken about, but I think this FAR guy thing was not spoken about because when this video was recorded, it was little known as the FAR guy. But after that, I think people started calling me FAR guy more often. So FAR is, for those of you, of course, who understand the North Indian slang, FAR is a Hindi word which means something awesome, right? And it's an expression in schools and colleges. You use this word, FAR diya, FAR kaam kar diya, right? And it's not a word; it's an expression of doing something amazing. So we wanted to do something amazing. What it was, we did not know back then. So we named our company as FAR. And of course, when I was posting about it, people started calling me, "Oh, he's the FAR guy. He's the FAR guy. He's the FAR guy." Of course, that became popular, and I also started doing my own content and on social media presence around the FAR guys. That's how it started.
Oh, lovely. So how do you get the ideas for this content that actually they just spear through people? How do you get these ideas?
I think content is an everlasting journey, first of all. You constantly think, you evolve, and it's a reflection of your thoughts, it's a reflection of your feelings. So I don't take content as something that, okay, I have to write something. I just say that it's a part of my expression. I have to express, I have to emote, I have to do that. Because if I take the pressure, I have to write something. then I'm taking that performance pressure that, okay, what if I don't write good? What if this does not go viral? What if this does not get public validation? So I just express. There are hits and misses, but when I express, I never feel short on content because there are a lot of many things we express, but a lot lesser things we write. So once you express, you have like an ever flowing perennial river of thoughts that flows into your mind.
Lovely. While watching your video, there was this tough time that you've spoken about during your school days. Yeah, you never wanted to go to school. So, whom did you idolize, and what was that push that took you to school every morning then?
So yeah, of course, I think uh, I loved going to school initial half of the days. In fact, my first startup was started from school itself. It was kind of a startup where I was eating lunch boxes of my schoolmates and was getting money in return. So, of course, I have enjoyed my fair share of school as well. But of course, there comes a point of time in your life where you don't feel connected to a lot of students around. You are more like an entrepreneur. You think that, okay, question the existence of why it's there and why is it done in a certain manner, why entrepreneurship is not getting taught. There are n number of things you get pissed off, right? So yeah, there were times which, of course, I did not want to go to school and did not mingle with a lot of people around. I was more to myself. I was learning finance. I was learning entrepreneurship. I was doing things. I think yeah, that was the reason. But yeah, now I look back and I talk to people from my school. In fact, I've been invited by my school to give lectures to my teachers and to my wonderful students as well. Now I go back, it's always a wonderful feeling that you've come back here to this place. And yeah, it's always that feeling which can't be described, but it's kind of very
Yeah, so
hearteous.
it's yeah, Aditya, it's the same people who did not, welcome you or were bullying you are now calling you back. So how would you explain this kind of a feeling that you have? Because I'm asking you because there are many youngsters sitting and listening to you probably. So how do you manage this feeling?
I'll tell you one thing. Once we are growing up, we are in our early teens. A lot of insecurities, a lot of doubts that okay, where will our career spiral out to? What we would become, right? We're just starting at the like just the genesis of our starting of a career. So we don't know. We are living in a pool of uncertainty. And of course, when people are young, they try to ridicule someone else's as well without even realizing that they're ridiculing or mocking someone. So I think once they do that, you need to identify that there would come a time where, of course, whatever you're thinking in your head would be practical in life. So what you have to do is wait for those 3-4 years, give all the hard work, patience that they're inside you, give it your 100% on all the energy that you have, and make sure that you are just focusing on doing the task and not focusing on the results. That's what Bhagavad Gita also teaches us. Right? Let's focus on the process and not the results. So
Yeah.
if you focus on that process, I think there would come a time, life comes in a full circle moment. It comes for everyone. But you have to go through the grind, you have to do the hustle. If you don't do that, nothing would happen.
True. True. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, matured or seasoned entrepreneurs and professionals listening to you. Now, my question is that when you say that, you need to overcome your doubts, what is it that you would want to share? Because you've been on different platforms. So what is it that you would like to share to the seasoned entrepreneurs and professionals who sometimes, are going through this tough time in this new normal?
I'll tell you, once you accepted entrepreneurship as a career path, you hugged 50% of the problems in your life, right? Because life was not going to be an easy road journey for anyone. You prepared yourself by taking the decision that, okay, probably I'll go ahead and I'll become an entrepreneur. The courage, the conviction that you had in yourself while taking that decision. So also realize that once you are in entrepreneurship, that's where most of the problems would come. 90% of the days would not be good days. Your customers will not pay you. There would be n number of problems. But I think one thing that stays constant at the end of the day is your passion. Even if you have no money in the bank account, even if you have no customers, you should have your passion to continue every next day of the journey. So if you have that passion, make sure that you are your biggest support in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship itself is a very lonely journey, right? So if you're not your biggest support, if you're not your support system yourself, kind of gets very hard to become an entrepreneur. and
Yeah.
it takes a lot, but definitely the results are fulfilling. But you do have to go through the process, and you are your best support there.
Yes, you have to work 26 hours out of 24 hours if you're an entrepreneur. Yeah, you don't sleep. So, leading question to what you just said. So, what entrepreneurial tricks have you discovered to keep you focused and productive in your day-to-day busy schedule? Because I am sure it's not only FAR that is your pet project. There would be many more. So what keeps you going with multiple things around?
A very interesting question. And I'll tell you, time is the biggest asset, and it's the only asset that you don't own, right? So if time would slip away from you, you're not owning that, and it's the biggest asset out there. Everyone has got 24 hours, but how we manage those 24 hours is what differentiates between someone who's very successful and someone who's not, right? So what eventually matters is that you need to prepare yourself for time. You need to be quick, first of all. That's the baseline. Whatever task you're doing in your work, or maybe in your time, because time management does not happen by adding extra hours. It happens by subtracting the time taken on one particular thing, right? So what you have to do is you have to subtract the time. That's one thing. Second thing is, whenever you're waking up, always make sure that you know what you have to expect from the day. If you're not doing that, then half of your day goes in seeing what can I expect from the day, and the next half goes in ranting that this day was not up to expectations, right? So make sure that you are at least writing it down. I make a practice that I'm maintaining a personal journal where I write things down that I have to do both personally and professionally, so that I know that when I'm waking up the next day, this is what I have to do. So right from the very beginning that I open up my eyes, I am conscious of time. I'm conscious of what my day would look like. That's the first thing. And second is hold yourself accountable, right? I think procrastination comes in because we don't hold ourselves accountable, right? We just say, okay, it's our fault. Then the next day happens and it's again our fault. If we don't hold ourselves accountable, if we don't take a plan of action against it, nothing would happen. So start writing it down, have expectations set from your day, right? And try and minimize the tasks which are not involved. There's a perfect principle called as Pareto principle, which says focus 80% on your tasks, right? Which are giving you the maximum output. So focus on your tasks which give you the maximum output. Don't focus maximum tasks which are giving you lesser output. That's how you optimize your schedule and all.
Lovely. I think everybody's noting down and trying to take very valuable practical lessons. Now, taking it forward, how do you manage your time when it comes to social media engagement? Because you're a young guy and you are all over the social media. So, the excitement is, oh, how many likes did I get? That's the excitement every one of us has. So how do you manage? Because once you wake up, I know for a fact, definitely everybody's hands reaches out to their mobile phones. So how do you manage the social media engagements?
That's a very interesting question. Initially, it was like a lot that, okay, how many likes did it come, how many comments, how many people are sharing my story. But after that, try and get used to it, right? That don't look at that because it keeps on increasing. And sometimes it's like a weird habit. If you start looking at, okay, your post is getting these many likes, and then you keep fixated at the post, seeing how many new likes are you getting. I remember, like, I was so addicted to it that way back, what I used to do is I used to sit on one post, I used to refresh, and refresh for hours, right, to see how many more likes. And I think after a point of time, see, again, these are the sort of tasks which I said does not cover under the Pareto principle. I have posted about. No matter how many times I look at, the likes are not going to increase. Other people are going to like it, right? So I should not focus on something which is not in my control in that perspective. I've done my task. I had to write content. I wrote that. I had to post something. I did that. So now it's time to move ahead. The world will react to it. Now it's the world's time to put their time into social media. You've done your social media bit. So move ahead and do your next thing. Go your next thing. That's how you try and manage. But I think one habit that I would share with everyone is that whenever you're waking up in the morning, never check your phone, right? I know it's the toughest thing I'm telling you to say, but telling you to do. But I think if you don't check your notifications for the first 10, 15 minutes of your day, the first 10, 15 minutes of your day, if you just go out, in the open, in the balcony. Either just sit, just stand there, even stand there and observe for a while. If you take deep breaths, have some water. It's beneficial to drink water every morning. So if you have some water, probably from a copper glass, I drink it from a copper glass. You have that, I think, kind of purifies your system from within, right? And then go ahead and social media. Because if you start with that anxiety and start with that, okay, how many my social media has grown up from overnight, then you're putting a very wrong start in tune and rhythm to the day. Every day, then you will be chasing that same thing because that was the first thought that came into you. Change that first thought and get into a good habit.
So the next one, it's again something which is my personal question to you. Actually, you are a public figure, and people are watching you. You see a lot of action happening, whether it is political, whether it is to do with businesses or whatever that is going on. And you may be writing certain content, and you may be commenting on something. So how do you manage, if at all there are any trolls or people writing against? How do you manage that?
Very interesting. I'll tell you one thing, and it may seem very funny to you, but it is very awesome. I personally was not getting a lot of trolls till now, right? Because I also fund companies. So if they are trolling me, they are not getting funding at the end of the day. So they have to troll very carefully, right? So that is there. But up until now, I think I started with Twitter. I started posting tweets on Twitter, and it got like amazingly, crazily viral in the past 3 weeks that I started, right? And it's been shared by a lot of media pages. It's been, in fact, covered on Economic Times as well. It was covered by Economic Times yesterday. So tweets are amazingly going viral in that sense. And of course, with Twitter, it's like a platform, naturally getting a lot of trolls there. And one thing is that a difference, the fundamental difference between a troll and someone who's giving you constructive feedback is logic. A troll is thus there to say anything without logic. The purpose is just to disturb your peace of mind. But
True.
someone who's not trolling you, who's giving you a constructive feedback, they give you a plan of action, right, to do next. Troll would say, Aditya Arora is bad. I can't do anything about it. I can't go to my mother and say, why did you produce me in the first place, right? But if someone says Aditya is bad because this is the kind of thought he posted, it does not go with the sentiments of this. Then I have a plan of action, a thing to fall back upon and see where I went wrong in the first place, right? So always, this is the hairline difference I use to differentiate between trolls and constructive feedback people. I try and take and try and implement the constructive feedbacks that I get. But definitely I try and ignore the trolls because that is again something in which I can minus my time into. I should not plus my time there.
Right. That's very nice what you just said. For the entrepreneur sitting here, again, a question. As an entrepreneur, do you take responsibility of any failure that you would have faced in the past?
I think yes. I do take responsibility of certain failures that we did. And this is something that I tweeted as well, that it is our initiatives that fail. It is our ventures that fail. We don't fail as a person, right? It's not that if we have failed in some of the other startups before, we can't do another startup beyond that. We can't move on to the next step of the journey. Failures, I think, are a part of life. I think they're the stepping stones of success, no matter how much we say. So definitely, I do take responsibility for it because shying away from failures is kind of running away from your life. So I do take uh, accountability of failures. But more than that, I do take my lessons from it, right? So I know I
Yeah.
failed, which can't be unturned now. The lesson that I got, I try and see that I don't fail at the same place. So the first startup that I was building, I failed because I did not have a sustainable business model, right? Second startup I did, I got acquired too soon. Maybe I could have run it more, got a better value. Maybe I could not have got acquired, would have promising future. That venture also failed because the person who acquired us could not run it to the full extent. So that was there. In FAR itself, we've gone through multiple business models. We've gone through various failures on a lot of fronts. Keep learning, we keep growing. I think that's a part of life. So anyone can fail at 69 as well and 70 as well in their life. I'm just 24, so my life is just starting. So I am very
Yeah.
new to life.
Yeah. So you're just 24. So when these failures are happening, so do you have any mentor to fall back on as a young entrepreneur? And if so, yes, you have one. who is that? And we could, these days those coaches and those business gurus, everybody's around. So where, to whom do you fall back on?
I'll tell you one thing very honest. When, no matter how many gurus you have, right? It's important to have gurus in life. They are symbolic. Uh, they are definitely a stone for wisdom and knowledge. Definitely have them. But no one would be able to help you if you don't open up to the problem, right? If you go to a doctor and say, I have fever, right? The doctor said, okay. But if you don't tell the like what extent of fever I have, right? What level of fever I have, is it internal fever, external fever, what kind of fever it is, I won't be able to open. If I've had cold drink, I've like worsened my throat, and then because of that, the fever has triggered. If I'm not opening up to that, doctor would never be able to help, right? So similarly with business gurus and everyone, any advisors, if you don't open up to them, they'll never be able to give you the best. And as Indians, as most of the people, we tend to not open up very, very openly in with our mistakes, right? Because we tend to be a bit regressive in our mistakes. So first thing is to come out of your shell, to come out of your comfort zone, and to start accepting them, to start realizing what those mistakes are. Find people, of course, who are giving you constructive feedbacks and who invest in your growth. And of course, make them as mentors. There does not need to be anyone high profile to make as mentors, right? Anyone who's willing to invest in your growth and is giving you critical feedback, and to them, your success also means as much as theirs. So definitely go ahead and I think work with those people more as mentors, more as friends, whatever you call it. But definitely stay connected.
So you have a mentor that you fall back
Not
on.
not one person. So I have like a lot of people whom I make mistakes with, and they give me the lesson. Okay, this is how you should
Right.
do.
Yeah. So,
So
so
I
it
think
should
I
not be one, it should be many. That's what the message is, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Right. So, one very important question is that is spirituality an important part of an entrepreneur's journey? If yes, why? And if no, why should people not bring in spirituality in being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a very deep question. So my viewpoint is that we're all spiritual beings, right? So why do you hiding? Why do you need to bring spirituality in that? All of us are spiritual beings in some way or the other, right? And definitely we are in this midst of, don't want to sound philosophical on a Friday night, but definitely all of us are in that life of course, finding ourselves and doing something for ourselves and for the entire world so that it could become a better place. All of us have a vision in hand. All of us are onto something, and all of us are trying to add value to our day every day. In that process, we are get like loving ourselves, finding our mistakes, and improving. I think this is what spirituality means for me. So we are all spiritual beings in that sense. And if entrepreneurs are not spiritual beings, it's very hard to continue into this space where
Very
so much
true.
is uncertain.
Absolutely right. Bang on. So now I want to go to your Padmashree nomination. So if you can just take us through, what was it all about? And we would want to know, like, what was it that got you nominated and what was the feeling when you heard that you were nominated? Because you were very young that time.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, see, it's not one journey because again, Padmashree, the fourth highest recognition in the country, does not come just at one thing. It's like more like whatever you've done till lifetime. So, of course, I was growing ahead. I was running a lot of startups. I definitely came across Delhi government a couple of times. So, Delhi government started giving funds to startups in the Delhi government startup scheme. They were giving 5 lakh grants to startups. And I was, in fact, a small part of it because one of my friends eventually got funded from that. But after that, I continued with my campaign education yatra, which was around teaching children not on an academic curriculum, but basically focusing on their holistic development. When that happened, I reached out to a lot many students around Delhi NCR. I taught them, and when once, of course, I was recognized by Microsoft for that, and a lot of other institutions as well. That is when Delhi government came to know about okay, this campaign existed and this campaign is there, and this guy has received a lot of prestigious awards. for the parliamentary award as well. So I think union also, union also came to know about me, not just the state. That was there. And yeah, I was then connected. I was under their eyes. Of course, they were seeing my progress. And then the main thing that happened was we were basically I got to know that a bunch of people from outside India in US were trying to submit a proposal to Delhi government, which was called as teaching entrepreneurship through failure stories, right? So it was a very interesting concept that I found out. I partnered. I somehow found their contact through a webinar, which was done by Aam Aadmi Party. I joined that webinar. I found their contact, and definitely I partnered with them, and I became the ambassador. They saw that okay, this is this young entrepreneur. Became their ambassador. Started teaching a lot to students about it, and started getting more entrepreneurs to share their failure stories. Now about 850 entrepreneurs have already shared their failure stories. And now this whole proposal became a scheme under Delhi government, where almost 8.5 lakh government school students from classes 6 to classes 12 every day are being taught this subject of entrepreneurship mindset curriculum. This is a necessary subject. You can't skip it. So yes, definitely it became big. It became a scheme. That is where Delhi government recommended my name to the union as one of the nominees.
Lovely. It's so. I have a question from Mr. Ashwin Pasricha. Mr. Ashwin, why don't you ask your question?
So, Aditya, first, a lot of congratulations. And in fact, it's very inspiring to hear your story. And at such a young age, you have actually, in one sense, started on a very positive note. And that's so very inspiring. Uh, and what I really wanted to know more about your, of course, I'd love to get in touch with you later as well. But I would like to know more about FAD. What is it that it does currently? And because that could be important for many people on the call today, I guess. And going ahead, uh, what are your plans for the future? Because I'm very curious, because my background is I'm an executive coach and a leadership consultant to many corporates, and meeting, is one thing which has really impressed me is the humility and the maturity which you have at such a young age, and this is quite rare. So I'm very fascinated and curious to learn what are your plans for the future, yeah, in terms of how do you see the next 10 years in your life unfolding? Because I'm learning from you as well as you speak. Over to you. Thank you.
Definitely. So I'll answer the first question first, because that's a bit easy to answer. I'll meanwhile try and think of the second answer while answering the first. Um, yes, about FARD. So I'll tell you what we do. And in fact, would love to host you as well at FARD Network. So what we do is we are a bunch of angel investors. When I say angel investors, we invest in early stages of startups. We provide them capital. So FAR Network is a consortium of about 600 plus investors who come from different walks of life, and we invest in early stages of a startup, right from as low as about 35 lakhs, which would be 50K USD, to almost about 2.5, 3 crores, which would be roughly about 400K, 450K USD, US dollars. So 50K to 500K USD is our broad check size. We invest in cutting edge technology, exciting early stage technology, tech enabled startups. We help them to grow to the next level. So it's not just about investing in them, it's also about hand holding them and getting them to the next level. And the syndicate is about 2 years old. We started in about the start of 2020. So I will not still say 2 years, about 1.5 years old. And we've already invested in about 42 companies till date. So very aggressively investing in early stage startups. And we've grown to about 600 plus investors who are a part of the forum. So we do monthly forums. The next one we are doing is on 14th of August. It happens second Saturday every month. So I would love to host if you're looking to invest in startups, explore them as an asset class. Because a lot of investors are coming in and investing in early stage startups.
Okay.
We'd love
I
to
will get
welcome
it.
you in those.
Thank you so much. We look forward to connecting with you later. And now the second part of the question, very curious.
Definitely, definitely. So second part of the question, where do I see myself 5 years? That's the question I'll tell you. I've spoken at almost about now touching 288 events across in the past 3 years. But I've never been able to give the best answer to this question. Because this is the question which makes me nervous. I'll tell you why. Because 5 years back, had someone asked me, Aditya, how do you see yourself on 30th of July 2021? I would have never said, of course, talking about entrepreneurship to a bunch of lovely people, right? I would have said maybe doing an MBA or maybe doing a job. But life so happened that so many things happened so quickly that of course I married to this field and then of course want to make my career in. I think 5 years from now I'll tell you, but I'm of course not dodge this question. 5 years or 10 years from now, one thing that I want to do is right now we are syndicating capital. So on a professional front, we are syndicating capital right now. So 5 lakhs, we are collecting that and then investing. So one thing that I would want to do is set up a fund so that we already have capital, all of the capital in one place. We can start deploying it. That work is already on. So if all goes well, I think you'll see that in happening in the next 1.5 years, not 5 years. So I have of course been managing that fund and then of course talking sharing my experience with the youth, motivating them in various other ways, and creating a lot of content around startups as well, because there's a lot of white space and misconception around what startups are, and that's what demotivates a lot of people to start entrepreneurship. So I want to reduce that barrier. And
Okay. So just one more thing, a follow-up question is, now that we're from your vantage point, what is it that you feel, and, like I said, you're young, but you still, with wisdom and maturity is nothing to do with age. But from your vantage point, what is it that we can do to make our course curriculum, where, in MBA schools or even in higher education, because after the BMS is some sort of or BFM or whatever, it's also some sort of a management course. Because entrepreneurship is something which is very, very unique to every individual, and everyone has their own entrepreneurial code, as I call it. So what is it that you feel we can strengthen a curriculum? Because it would seem, from the outside, is that sometimes there are some set of people who are very focused in terms of what they want to do in life. And there's the other part, which is slightly scattered, trying to find themselves in this crazy world. And therefore, I would just like to hear from you, what is it that you feel one needs to change for things to kind of come together for the youth of the country?
can you repeat that, because I was
I
your
think
voice
it's too.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think Ashwin, it's too long a question. So if
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
just.
So what is it that you feel we need to do at a, to strengthen the MBA curriculum or even higher education, the BMS and the BFM, to really, inspire people to, at least develop entrepreneurial qualities leading to something else greater in life? Over to you. Thank you.
Understood. So yeah, see, if you look at it that way, entrepreneurship is never taught in schools or in colleges, right? And entrepreneurship is such a practical subject. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, at least have a mindset like an entrepreneur.
Correct.
That's in fact what we are teaching at Delhi government as well. When we go there and take classes, we don't tell what is venture capital, what is bootstrapping. We don't want to like shove all of that knowledge into the throats of these kids. We teach them how to develop mindset like an entrepreneur. The productivity hacks we follow, the time management skills we follow, how do we deal with failures in life, how do we open up about our failures to our parents, to our friends, to our family, right? So having mindset like an entrepreneur is very important, right? And once you give that exposure to any student for that matter, at least they'll have that urge to explore, right? And entrepreneurship would only happen more in this country if we start exploring it in the first place, not outright rejecting it. If we start outright rejecting it that it's not made for me or it's very risky, entrepreneurship would never happen. And India needs a lot of entrepreneurs. India needs that exposure. So one is making that mindset building activities and then coupling up with more practical on the ground knowledge, giving them internships, externships, projects, so that they can work live with startups, they can enhance their skills, giving them a whole repository of resources as well, which is required to enhance their know-how. So I think those are the sort of changes that we do need.
Yeah, Aditya, I have these questions lined up in the chat box. So I would request, I read Z Soft Point. Gentleman had raised his hand, sir. If you would want to ask your question, because that's the name that I read on the screen.
Yeah. Hello, Aditya. What was the major challenges of your first startup? The major challenge you faced on your first startup?
So, so I'll tell you, my first like startup was when I was like almost graduating out of my school. I was simultaneously building a platform where YouTube content creators can analyze their content. So I think as me and Harpreet ma'am were talking about that, there is a lot of content which goes out there. But how is your content doing? How is it performing? You need to track that as well, right? You can't be like, okay, I'll post just content. But if you're not tracking that, I think you're not growing as a creator, right? So my first company was around building a YouTube, like a white label platform for any creator to manage their content, see the analytics of it. So it was like a Facebook, but for YouTube videos, right? So socialize with other creators who have more better metrics than you, learn from them, follow what kind of hashtags they are following. So become making it more like a democratic place where if I'm a very big creator, any small creator can follow my tips, my guidance, can connect with me and grow accordingly. So that was the first startup that I built. Challenge was to build the right team firstly because I did not have a lot of connects. I had not seen the world beyond school, and in fact, I hated my schoolmates, so I could not have them as my team members. So first challenge was to build the right team. Second challenge was of course time because I was in school learning, and of course, my mother was a mathematics teacher, so I think I don't need to explain that further. What challenge that was to run a startup with a mathematics teacher in your house. So definitely managing time, working. But then once you got the acquisition offer, the another challenge was to make sense of it. Whether it's a good amount, bad amount, should I sell my company? So many challenges, but I think quick short journey. It was destined to happen, I believe, because that's what got me interested in entrepreneurship in the first place. And that's why I went to a business school to study. I never went to a normal academic college. I went to a B school, undergraduation B school to study.
Great.
And the
Aditya, I have,
and the
sorry. Yeah,
and the
please go ahead.
second question is, how new entrepreneurs can join the FAD network? Because
I think
lots of entrepreneurs are asking that question.
yeah, I see a lot of questions like that in the chat too. If you want to connect to me, I think I'll more than happy if I can drop my number in the chat. You can say that, or
In fact, on LinkedIn, they can follow you. They cannot connect with
yeah,
you. Is that so?
yeah, absolutely. No, so I think I'm not sure because LinkedIn has a connection limit of 25,000. So I think I have
Yeah.
maxed out on my connections there. So not sure if connect button is coming there. I think it should be because I removed some of my connections like a few days back. So I hope it should be coming. But what you can do is, I'll tell you one.
Because that's the same question what Mr. Sahil Arora has put in the chat box. So
Yeah,
that's a very
I
interesting.
even
Mr.
an email ID
Sahil,
would help. Yeah.
I'm just typing that down only.
Yeah.
So I've written down my email ID. You can connect. You can connect there and.
Perfect, Aditya. I did send you the LinkedIn invite also. I could see the option to connect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya.
that's lovely. There was one question from Rajeshri, of which the first part was answered. Rajeshri, I would request you if you want to ask the second part of your question. That's interesting, actually.
I just generally wanted to know because he's Aditya, you are uh, uh, projected and you have presented yourself as one of the leaders who should definitely people look up to you. So, what according to you, from your business perspective, what are the global challenges that you see? Because there are various challenges and there would be areas where our youth should invest their focus on. So that was the question. What are the global challenges that you see, and what kind of areas of occupation, for example, the future occupation that we may not know they are existent today, but how should our youth prepare to get into those areas? Yeah. Thank you.
I think, ma'am, your voice was breaking, but from what I heard, you were asking global challenges that I foresee in
Yes.
my occupation or my profession.
Yes.
Yes. A. And the B part is, just to add to that, what are the various opportunities that the knowledge workforce, that is the knowledge force today, that is the students, they should look forward to in terms of getting into their, what do you call that, as workforce? Where do they see themselves going? Yeah.
Very interesting question. So one that I see as an opportunity right now is that world has become a very, very connected place now, especially to COVID. Thanks to COVID, I think boundaries have ceased to exist now. We're doing this seminar, webinar here with all of you, doing it from our different parts of the world, India and the world. Right? So definitely world has become a much closer place in that sense. So hiring, talent, knowledge, know-how, location has gone out as a constraint. So you can work with the brightest of minds sitting in any part of the world. You can be connected, you can be as connected as anyone. I think that's the biggest opportunity it brings you. Second thing is everything is tech enabled, right? So the cost of transformation of anything, it's become low because you're not spending a lot on traveling, you're not spending a lot on overheads. Technology is becoming a free resource now. Or more, of course, as it more happens, technology would become free in the hands of everyone too. So in that, it's a very wonderful opportunity that it presents. But I think the threat for particularly my business, I can tell you uh, is that the quality of startups, right, and the urgeness to close them quickly. And I'll tell you, this is a threat because there are a lot of investors who are coming up as well, right? A lot of people became angel investors, startup investors post the virus lockdown. So closing deals quickly, getting those key companies under your portfolio, that's another challenge because now startups are raising more capital than they required, right? And more liquidity is there in money. So how can you close something very, very quick? And money does not differentiate. 5 rupees of mine is similar to the 5 rupees of yours, but it's only the strategic value that makes it the difference. Building that strategic value, being quick, being fast, being consistent, and having a no room for error. Because I'm working in that space where I'm dealing with people's money, right? In fact, I'm putting my own money as well alongside them. So there's no room for error that much, right? We are doing it, we are running it professionally. Of course, startups can fail, but then your selection has to be that far because investors would also want to work with you if they see your portfolio, their portfolio growing. So you become dynamic. You have to change yourself to the trends because a lot many trends come in, go out. A lot many sectors become the focus. A lot many sectors go out of focus. Before lockdown, we were funding a lot of sports companies. We were funding a lot of e-commerce companies. After lockdown, we are funding gaming and education only and health. Before funding, we were not talking about health. After lockdown, we are all talking about health, right? So many things go in and out of focus. So being dynamic, being quick to adapt to those changes, and then working with quality people, finding the right people to work with is always a threat, but it's also an opportunity as well. So I think there goes your answer.
Yeah. So Aditya, I think everybody, one of us has had such an insight into what you just shared with us. So now that we are coming to the close of the session, I would like to just highlight a couple of points which we have derived out of our conversation. To the young teenagers, to the young entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs who are seasoned though, perseverance, risk taking, focus, and passion, apart from your time management, has to be your in thing. And to overcome the difficult times is a spirituality that needs to be imbibed. I think that's a great message that has been derived. On this note, I would like to thank the PCC admin team who have brought us all together on such a beautiful platform globally. And of course, the participants who have joined us across globe. And have given their Friday evening to us. And last but not the least, thank you, Aditya, for being with us. And it's my honor and privilege to have shared the same screen. Now I would say screen, not the platform, yeah, the dais, whatever. But then it's such a pleasure to see such young people like you do so well. Thank you very much for your time on behalf of PCC. Right before we move to the networking amongst ourselves, I would like to highlight that we will be breaking out into 4 rooms. One is the networking, entrepreneurship, and then we have leadership and the young adults. Whoever is here, there will be breakout rooms, so you can get into any of these rooms. Aditya, I would welcome you, whichever group or breakout room that you would like to be part of, you're most welcome. And if you would like to sign off, because I know you're a young guy and you're your Friday evening setup, so I would not hold you back. Because my last question was actually, do the girls propose you? But I would not go into that. We're running short of time. But then I will get my answer if you don't enter any of the breakout rooms. Okay. So, Jinya, you can have your 2 slides up for all our participants, and then we would gradually move into the breakout rooms.
If you don't enter breakout rooms, you'll have breakup rooms.
Oh God, that's coming from a youngster.
So,
Yes.
so I have created the breakout rooms. People
Okay.
can enter as
All
per
right.
the.
Super, super. So all participants, you could join the breakout rooms. They're all, the 4 of them are all listed out. It's your choice. You can click on the breakout rooms option. You will see 4 rooms there. Just click on join and you could go in. So any of the youth, join in there, leadership, entrepreneur, networking. Hope to see you soon in any of these. Thank you, Aditya. Let's meet sometimes.